Hello, Avila Advantage students. Hope everyone is doing well. And this is already in our second week. And one thing about these online classes, they do go so quickly. So good job, everyone, with the introduction forum post. There's still some out there that make sure you're responding to at least 3 peers. This week, I've taken it pretty light, just as long as you've done the initial and responded to the peers, you're getting the points. But you need to do that before Sunday at midnight. But next week, in the forum discussion, you're going to have 2 choices. I'm going to stick a little bit more to that rubric that you need to have a good initial post, think at least a good paragraph, and that your post to peers should be paragraphs. It means at least 4 sentences. But I think in any good paragraph, I always liked my writing specialist, Avila. She was a K-State grad, and she used to come up with called the triple EX. So exposition, thesis statement, or an argument. You would have your examples. You would also call it evidence, and then explanation. Really, that should be the biggest part of your paragraph. But think about that when you're replying to your peers. You just don't want to say, I agree with your point, you got a good point. You want to give some details. We want to add value to the class. You can give examples from your own experiences, or examples from work, or examples from the textbook with economics. We want to provide that evidence and give credit to those individuals. So if you're doing something out of the textbook, you need to cite that. But also, good job getting the Pearson. Most everybody got into Pearson. I know there's still a few people out there, but I'd say again with this Pearson, the homework, it's something you got to jump in early. Do not wait until the end of the week to do this, or you're going to find yourself in trouble, because I just cut it off at midnight. And again, you get as many attempts as you want, but it's your best score that you'll get. Some people already got hundreds on it, so good job. Just keep plugging away on it. But make sure to wrap everything up for week 1 by tonight. So this week, you're going to look at supply and demand. And of course, with the coronavirus, we have all kinds of good examples out there right now. But let's go over some technical definitions. So a demand curve, it's a negative inverse relationship to price and quantity. As obviously as the price goes up, you expect less quantity demanded. So we move along the demand curve. But it's those factors other than demand that will shift that curve out. And this could be a change in taste and preferences, taxes and subsidies, expectations. So just as you're seeing runs in the grocery store and Costco for toilet paper and cleaning products, it's a big shift out in demand. And what should say would happen in the market is that if markets are efficient, we reach a new equilibrium price. But what's happening right now is because markets don't change the price quickly, and there's also concerns of, like, I'm going to be accused of price gouging. Some economists would say the market's just reacting, and there's really not price gouging. If all of a sudden there's a big run demand, there's a scarce supply, the price is going to go up. But I know Amazon was starting to put people off, sellers, when they were starting to raise the price significantly on hand sanitizer and other items. So that there is a degree of that. You're taking advantage of someone probably because they're lacking information, or that they're desperate, and that people are trying to make profits off the hardworking people of America, I guess I would just say. So be careful with that if you're pricing and something's scarce. But we could talk more about that later in the course. Supply side, same thing. It's a positive, direct relationship. As I move up the supply curve, it's due to price. But a shift in supply can be due to technologies, taxes and subsidies, expectations. So it's really this marriage between supply and demand when these curves shift and things happen in markets like we've seen with the coronavirus, is that changes in prices and quantity happen. So you'll look through a lot of that, and you'll talk about shortages and surpluses. And eventually, if there's a shortage, the price is going to go up. And if there's a surplus, we expect the price to go down. So, all right, chapter 5 and 6 are kind of the meat and potatoes. This might be new information for some people. If you've taken Micro 4, you've probably done through the supply and demand already. But chapter 5 talks about market failures. It's that in a market, we don't get to the desired output that we would like. Good examples of this would be public education. I'm in a course right now at KU about public education finance, and the debate in the course is pretty much the premise that higher education is becoming more of a private good. I say that because that the states, even public institutions, Avila is a private institution, they do get some benefit from the public and the government through financial aid to help students out. Specifically in Missouri, it's Missouri Access, but there's other scholarship programs. But what has happened is that as the states have decided to spend less and less on higher education, you all having to pay more for it. It's becoming more like a private good. So public good kind of says you can't exclude anybody. Everybody has access to it. Public good, you can think of your police, your national defense, public parks. But for a while there was kind of believed in America, about 60s, 70s, that everybody had the right to a higher education. And then in the 80s there was kind of a shift, probably in the Reagan administration, that says, no, institutions can do this on their own. Well, we're supplying less, and states are also the same situation, that we have so much discretionary money. I can only spend on Medicare, Medicaid, government pension contracts, and the pie got smaller and smaller for higher ed. So go out there and vote, because who you put in office, and there's been a lot on the political trail out there. Some of it's kind of a little bit of crazy talk about wiping all student debt out. I don't know if that's necessarily a good idea, but they could definitely lower the cost of going to school. I have a son that's a junior in high school. We're going to have to send him to college in a couple of years, and it is pricey. You have to make good choices about the return on investment on your education. How much am I spending, and how much is this going to lead to higher wages in the future? Of course, there are implicit benefits too, but you just have to be smart about it. And I'm hoping that my son does not take a 4-year vacation school as his choice. So, all right. So with that, you're going to look at certain things like they mentioned, like the steel, the vaccinization. Steel plants probably producing a bunch of glop in the rivers, so you tax them to shift them to reduce their output. Vaccinations, I think they said with the coronavirus, I was listening to that on a YouTube channel last night, it's probably going to be a testimony I was watching in the Congress or Senate. That's probably going to be at least a year, because they have to go through a process, do their diligence to make sure that whatever they're putting out there, vaccinations, are safe. They always say with doctors, do no harm. So we're not going to have vaccination for the coronavirus for probably at least a year at the minimum. So again, wash hands, be smart, do the elbow bump, those type of things. So we have to, as a nation, we have to kind of make sure that we're doing good behaviors to prevent the spread, because this probably will likely have some impacts, economic impacts. I'm hoping that it will be minimal, though, if we're making the right choices and we have good leadership. So you're going to look at things such as questions of income distribution, subsidies, like higher education example, like Pell Grants are a good example of need-based aid, where it should increase the demand for higher education for those that come from lower incomes. And then last, in Chapter 6, you're going to look at the tax system. Of course, everybody's doing their taxes this time of year. They talk about different types of taxes proportional. Our U.S. income tax system is a progressive system, so at the higher income brackets, you keep paying a higher percentage in that bracket. It doesn't mean your overall percentage is at 22%, whatever it is. I think it goes like 12% or something now in the new tax rates. But as you progressively make more, you're going to pay a bigger percentage on taxes. A good example of a regressive tax would be like a sales tax. Think about someone that makes $10,000 a year. They buy a certain amount of groceries. They get tacked on 10% on those groceries. Someone that makes $100,000 a year probably buys the same amount of groceries, maybe a little bit more. But that tax of 10% on those groceries is smaller relative to the individual that's only got a $10,000 in income. So that way it could be a sense of regressive tax. But page 180, I wanted to point that out because that's a really good example. They show it the gasoline tax, and what you'll notice is when the tax is put in place, that supply curve, it intersects that vertical axis. I want you to think of it shifting up by the amount of the tax. And what happened was you saw that less gasoline was consumed, and people paid a higher price for that in the market. But of course, that means that the government also collects that rectangle, if you will, of the amount of whatever the tax is. I think it was 40 cents a book, if I'm correct, times how many millions of gallons, and that's what they get to collect. So, all right, that was a summary for this week. But if you do have questions, do email me in Canvas. I took the Ask the Professor forum discussion in there because I'm just worried that I'm going to not see it. It doesn't necessarily pop up, and I'll forget about it. But see, if you have a question, email me directly, and I will get to you that day or the following day at the latest. I'll attempt to. But otherwise, have a great week, and I'm looking forward to the forum discussion. Again, I'll jump in once in a while, but I'm not going to respond to every single post. But be safe and be smart out there. Have a good week.